Quintero in the starting 11.
And you can debate about why that happened. I mean, was it, if we win, we play in a short week and let's have Darwin rested? Or is it there's something going on with Darwin?
It could be.
Or is it Darwin's just being an ass and Heath is saying, screw you? Mm-hmm. I mean, is Heath just, like I have been all season on Darwin, a little cool on him?
Sure.
It was still surprising, even though I was kind of like with it. It was still, to me, it was still shocking that he didn't start.
It wasn't even that; it was the formation too.
Well,
the formation was normal.
It was 4-2-3-1. Yeah,
okay.
Because I just was looking at that. They had Angelo Rodriguez started the game up front, and then they had Finley, Molino, and Lude.
I mean, otherwise, generally speaking, it was the Darwin.
Yeah.
The leaving him out that really kind of surprised everybody.
I think that was looking at the lineup, that was the only surprise, I guess, going into that game. So,
I don't know if it would have changed anything.
I don't. It might have. We don't. Here's the problem: the Atlanta game for the Cup final didn't start Darwin, and look what happened. Right. So we go into another big game, first playoff game for the Loons. We don't start Darwin again. And so we don't know what he's going to do in big games.
We don't.
Well, right.
We don't, but I don't, I'll fast forward a little bit since we're talking about Darwin, but he did come in the 60th minute for Finley, and he made an impact on that game.
He did.
He had the assist on Grace's goal, which we'll get to, but, so, I mean, and I think he had some moments before that, where he contributed to some chances. So
I would say, though, and we'll probably get into it more, but I would say he didn't contribute as much as he should have.
Wow.
But then again, it's Darwin Quintero, and you never know what's going to happen.
You don't. He's an up and down type of guy.
Yeah.
The biggest concern I had going into this game was stopping Zlayton, which we did.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they had other guys who actually played.
Yeah.
Well,
and I don't think that, in the grand scheme of things, I don't think that it was a bad first half.
No.
Possession was relatively even at halftime. They did have, I feel like they had a couple more shots on goal than we did, because I think we only had one on goal.
We had a couple more corners than we did too.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, there wasn't anything that that stuck out to me as being
I mean, it was
bad.
It was a scoreless half. And the 45 ended 0-0, and I think just looking back briefly, I mean, Robin Lude had just a great chance, but put it well high over the
so did Angelo.
And Angelo
and
as
so
well.
did Ethan Finley.
Yeah, so
they all had chances.
So there was chances. That's the frustrating part. We've seen it a lot in games, even at Allianz Field, where they've been all but, they only lost one prior to this one.
Yeah.
But, it's even, there's been a lot of those 1-0 games, 0-0, 1-1 type games where it's the final third.
Yep.
We've seen it so many times.
Yeah, and I think it's actually morphing. Earlier in the season, it was the final third. Now it's not necessarily even the final third. We're getting the movement and activity in the final third. It's the finish. I know they consider that part of the final third, but it's almost like the final eighth.
That's like, you put it perfectly, because when I said final third, that's exactly what I meant. I should have said chances. They had their chances.
Well,
they got to finish those.
And it's crazy. It's like you look at their chances and you go, was there like an invisible fence around the goal? I mean, I see it happen in hockey before. I've seen teams go through like where they hit goalpost after goalpost after goalpost and hit the bar, and can't get anything to go in. And watching the Loons the past couple of weeks, we've seen a lot of that. It's like they just can't get it into the net.
And I think, I guess this is as good a time as any to kind of bring it up. I think that's the hump that we're at. So if you want to look at a 3-year plan, and the first 2 years we're tinkering, experiment, whatever, and then the third year was the fruition of making the playoffs. Now year 4 is kind of going to be that proverbial hump of, okay, we're a playoff team. Because, day one next season, we are a playoff contender regardless.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's now that hump of being somebody to reckon with in the playoffs.
yeah,
and we don't have that in our players.
No.
They don't have that finishing ability needs to be there.
Yeah, and I mean, can you look at a team like if the Loons were to look at any team, over the course of say not 3 years but 10 years, let's say, I don't think you have to look any further than Seattle.
Yeah,
they've never not made the playoffs in their existence.
Yeah, that's right.
Unless I'm wrong, but I think that's the case. At least they've at least been to the playoffs the last 10 years, if not their entire existence in the MLS.
Yeah.
Right. And it comes down to you can break the game down as much as you want. You've got your defensive half, you've got your defensive third. Mm-hmm. We've really commanded for sure the defensive third this season. I think the defensive half has been pretty good. We've had issues with giveaways and all that.
Yeah, the midfield's been solid.
But then you start saying, okay, well, this year, initially in the middle of the season, the final third was terrible. Mm-hmm. And then towards the end of the season, we got the final third down, but then we couldn't get that last little bit.
Yeah, and that's a good point. Like I have one story that I think you've all seen, but going in to be leading up to the playoff game at Allianz, Bobby Warsaw on MLS.com actually ranked Minnesota United with the best spine in all of MLS soccer. Right. And I guess that would be, he kind of described it as the players up the middle of the field, and that's what it is. So, you start with, you can even start with Monone, but Oparo, Alonso, Gregus, Quintero, the guys right up in the middle. For the majority of the year, we're solid going into the year. So,
and I think it was Matt Doyle when he picked us to win it all, which is probably what jinxed us.
Probably.
He was saying, I think the week earlier, that it's Minnesota's the team that's just going to wear down their opponent.
That's right.
You can't score against us.
No.
So they're just going to wear you down until we get that chance.
Until the other team makes a mistake.
Yep.
We counter.
We counter and we get the chance. Mm-hmm. Here was the problem in the playoffs, or even leading up to the playoffs. We'd get those chances, but we couldn't finish them.
Well,
so that's the next step.
10 goals in the last 10 games.
Right.
And now 11 goals in 11 games if you count the playoffs.
Right.
I mean, you can't win going forward with that. You just can't. So we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but in the off season, they're going to be looking at that final third and seeing what they can do, because there's a lot of guys who are not going to be here next year from that final third.
Without doubt.
Yeah.
That'll be an interesting conversation for, I'm sure, future pod.
Yeah.
But
so I think that'll probably end up coming up next episode. Probably.
Yeah. So we go into the half, guys. It's 0-0. So we got a chance still.
Yeah.
Right? Come out of the half. I think you and I were talking that we were waiting for Heath to pull the trigger on some subs.
Yep.
And like Heath always does, he waits and waits and waits and waits. Then he puts subs in too late.
Classic. Well, really. He did his classic move, which was the 60th minute, when I mentioned Darwin Quintero in for Finley. And then Mason Toy came in for Rodriguez 7 minutes later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's about the time when things started to go wrong. Because, I did feel like you were talking earlier, like as far as wearing down an opponent, it reminded me of a typical game at Allianz. Yep. I thought, hey, they can do this. Minnesota was playing well enough. Well, I thought they had a real legitimate chance of getting that one goal and squeaking away with a 1-0 win.
We had shut down their main guy.
Right.
And
he had a great opportunity. I believe that was second half.
But the Galaxy are really truly a one-dimensional team. If Zlatan doesn't score, they usually don't win.
Yeah, right. And going in, the reason they were the 5th seed probably, and they're maybe lucky to be the 5th seed, the way their defensive form all year had not been good.
No, it's been terrible.
And I think it was exposed in the El Tráfico match, just a few days ago.
And in reality, their defensive form even against us wasn't that great. Again, we just couldn't finish our opportunities.
We couldn't do shit.
Broken record.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the second half, I recall Jeff Reuter did an interview with Adrian, what was that, 2-3 weeks ago now, where it was a pretty extensive kind of pick your brain type of interview, and he asked about the subs, and Adrian said, well, there's a lot of things that go into picking subs. And the one thing that stuck out to me was, you have to consider making a change to be more attacking and what that can do to a team.
Yeah.
When you focus on the attack, all of a sudden things can fall apart. Mm-hmm. And this game is a good example of that happening. You know, we brought Darwin in, we brought Mason Toy in, and it sped things up for us, but it opened the field up
for them,
and it collapsed.
Yeah.
So it was. I thought it was kind of interesting when all of a sudden I kind of sat back and was rewatching it this past week. I was like, God, I just remembered back to that interview, and I was like, it's exactly what he was talking about.
Well, our defense gets tired, especially get a guy like Zlayton, like covering him the whole time.
Right.
Your defense gets tired, and then when you try to open it up offensively, your defense is already kind of worn out. And they're trying to open up offensively. They're doing counters. They're doing this, coming at them. It just becomes a cluster.
Right.
I mean, I wish they would have. I guess you can't second guess what Heath did, but I wish they would have just gone more defensive a little bit, try to wear them down, get that one counter attack chance,
right,
and get it in the flipping net, and win this game 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, there's argument to that.
Yeah. So, LA scores 2 goals in the second half.
It was in quick succession. Legit score. Did I pronounce that right? I don't know. But in the 71st minute, and then that was followed up rather quickly with Jonathan Dos Santos in the 75th. So it was kind of bang bang, and boy, it didn't take long to let the air out.
And we, David and I and Johnny, left our seats with 5 minutes to go.
I think so. Yeah, because I think I said if
we don't score,
if we hit the 90th minute. And we haven't scored. Or
the 85th minute.
85th minute, and we haven't scored. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So we the can and
we left, but we stopped.
Yeah,
because that's when Greg
wanted to get out of our seats.
Gregus scored the goal, so we were standing up watching the end of the game there. So Gregus scores that goal near the. Was it in extra time?
Just before the 87th minute.
And then they had 4 minutes extra time.
4 or 5.
4 or 5. And so there was a chance to tie it up.
Right,
but. Nothing came of it.
Yeah, and I think in the end we just weren't.
Yeah,
that next step.
We weren't ready.
Yeah,
so we lose 2-1. Playoffs are over. Season's over.
Yep.
No more Loons till next year.
Right.
Podcast is done, guys. It's been great.
And you know what? I was actually talking to a coworker about this earlier this week, and last year, because of the change in both the playoff format and schedule, the MLS Cup was not until December, I think 9th. Early to mid-December, and now here we are. And I was like, well, MLS is a very short off season, but here we go. We've got an extra month of off season.
We do.
Because the MLS Cup, I couldn't tell you the exact date, but it'll obviously be early November now.
Yep.
So there's an extra month.
And the funny thing is, the Eastern Conference is laying out just like I think it was Doyle who said that.
Yeah.
Because Toronto has a chance to go to the final.
Yeah, and it could be a three-peat of Toronto, Seattle, out of 4 years, 3 out of 4 years.
So we should clear that up. So it's Seattle going to LA, and then it's Toronto going to Atlanta.
Yep.
Yeah.
So all my picks are gone.
Yeah, and it pains me. The East pains me because I refuse to cheer for Bradley. But I do not want to cheer for Atlanta.
I don't have a problem with Bradley like you do. I know you've had it for a long time, but I think, to be honest, if I'm being honest here, I would like to see, the matchup that MLS probably wants to see, the Atlanta LA going to LAFC.
Oh, of course,
because that would be the
that'd
hype.
Be huge.
Do I want to see either of those teams win? Well, not especially.
I wouldn't mind watching LAFC win.
I'd love to see Toronto and LA kick the crap out of LA and just prove that even though you had the best record in soccer and you broke whatever records you did, you can still lose in the last game of the season.
Yeah, you can. I mean, that's the big thing about one and dones. Any given Sunday, I guess, is the common term.
So we left a little sad from the game.
Right, yeah.
And did I talk to you
Anybody
about
shed any tears, I should ask?
No.
Okay.
But I talked to you about this, David? we talk about the shooting that happened down the
God,
street?
we never even brought it up.
So we're leaving the stadium, and that's why this is why the Uber driver couldn't get to where she needed to get because it was blocked off.
Oh, yeah, sure.
I read that the next day. Actually,
Yeah.
it happened during something